Well, hey guys, can you all hear me okay? Hey, check, 1, 2. How you guys doing tonight? Oh, come on, that was pretty lame. How you guys doing tonight? That was better. So, we're so excited to have you guys here tonight. My name is Nick. I am one of the founders of Foster Coffee here, and this is called Conversation Piece, and it really sparked from conversations that were already happening here in Flint, and as you're going to hear tonight from Ashley, just kind of putting almost kind of like an architecture framework to stuff that's been going on here for a long time, and stuff that we're really excited to be part of. The Creative Mixer is simply just an opportunity for you guys to get to know each other. One of the things that I just heard this quote, that talent is distributed equally throughout the world, but opportunity is not. That each person in this room has the greatest potential to shake their community, to shake their neighborhood, to shake their larger community, whether that's the county, the state. You guys in this room have the potential to literally change the world. That's not just a phrase that sounds good or is a nice sound bite, but I absolutely believe that because I've seen it happen time and time again. And something that I know that maybe even beyond whatever Ashley says here tonight, which he's got some awesome things to share, is maybe just the conversation you just had with somebody you've never met before. If you walk away from tonight meeting someone and connecting with someone that you've never met before, then tonight was a success, because that's what this is about. So we're going to have a series of I want to call them talks, but just opportunity for discussion, whether that's to the speaker, to each other. We've already got the next one lined up, which I'm going to tell you more about later tonight. But I want to thank a couple people who helped bring this all together. First, I'd like to thank the building here. The ecosystem is the Ferris wheel and 100K ideas. For those of you who don't know, they can give a much better pitch than I can. But essentially, the Ferris wheel is a co-working space here that goes 7 floors up? 7 total floors up, so 6 more. So if you're looking for a place to work, create, connect with others, this is a great place to do that. 100K ideas comes from this idea that there's 100,000 people in Flint, there's 100,000 ideas. Just like I just said about that talent. Everybody here has something to contribute. They're a great resource if you've got an idea, something that you're thinking, hey, this could be something that I turn into a business or an idea or a product or something that needs a patent. They're a great place to do that. You can get some help. They'll put you through the Google test, basically just seeing if it already exists, and then they'll run you through a series of other kind of filters to see if your idea can really go to market and connect you with some great resources. So the other one is the Hub Flint. Miss Jackie is walking to her seat now. She's right there. They help sponsor tonight. They're a great publication here in Flint and Detroit. Yeah, please give them a round of applause. The other one is the Social Business Forum, Mr. Dane Walling back there. He helped sponsor tonight's event. Please give him a round of applause. He's also running for, are you running for a representative or what position? State House. Okay. So connect with him if you want to know more about that. Just to give you a little backstory about Foster, we started with this idea that goes so beyond coffee. Kind of our motto that we hold on to is that we serve people, not coffee. Coffee is a means to an end for us. We get our name not because my last name is Foster's, which we get a lot, but it comes from this vision that we have to foster community through coffee. That's what we live and breathe, is events like this. It's opportunities where we can take a space and bring people together. Whether it's you're here on a date, you're here for a business meeting, you're here for a creative mixer, or you're just passing through and need something to drink. That is what drives us, is really getting embedded in a community. We started back in 2015 over in my hometown, Owasso, and started a coffee shop there that grew into just a connection and an ecosystem of other businesses, nonprofits. We get connected wherever we can. So That's what drives us, a little bit about our story. There are some paper and pens on each of these tables. If you don't have one, your neighbor probably has one. Throughout the night, if you have a question about anything, write it down, and we're going to have one of our friendly helpers, Justin, back there with a big old beard who probably checked you in. He's going to come by and get those. If you are mic allergic, which just means you are scared to be in front of a mic, we've found an opportunity for you. You can actually write your question on a card. You don't have to stand up. If you're a little bit bolder, we've got a mic up here for you to ask your question. You may have noticed a few cameras here tonight. These guys here, Corey and Ryan, are filming tonight. Please give them a round of applause. They helped out last minute. They're cataloging this series and are recording audio and video to just, this will be a resource for you guys. You may have entered your email address, which we already sold to Facebook. So thank you very much for that. That's how we fund this. But really what we do with that is it's really to connect you with these resources. We're going to share the video with you, the talk, if you want to revisit that. If you want your information shared with other people, we can make those connections. That's all it is, full transparency. It's to connect you guys. So if you have not registered, you can do that on your phone, online. Do that post or right now or post-show or post-event, and we'll get your information. So, or you can go see Bushy Beard back there, and he'll take care of you. So our speaker tonight, thank you for bearing with me here. I'm so excited to introduce this guy. I basically had a 5-minute conversation with this guy and instantly fell in love. And he's got such a warm heart. I've met very few people that look at you and listen to you with such intensity and full presence. I mean, how many people, like, someone's telling you a story and you hear nothing that they said because you're thinking about 20 other things? But Ashley is totally different. He's just present. He's so attentive. He's got such a caring heart. He's a Flint native. He's going to share his story about Soul Foundry, where he came from, where he's going, and his passion for this city. So it is my great, great honor to introduce to you Ashley Peacock. Would you please give him a round of applause?
Well, hey there, Flint. Hey. How you living? Got it right out of the river. It was a water joke. Come on. So we were sitting at this round table called the Flint Social Business Forum with Dane Walling. And side note, before I met Dane, I wanted to dislike him, because I preemptively dislike all politicians. And that guy just won me the heck over. Like, we've been working very closely now for, over a year, I think. And that guy's heart is the real deal. So if you want to dislike him, you're in for a rough ride, because he's really great. But Dane put together this think tank of influencers. It was invite only. We've really grown organically over the past year. And Nick and I were at the same group together at the same time for the first time, and it was like Dreamweaver played in the background of Wayne's World. It's like, this guy, where have you been all my life? And within a 5-minute conversation, we were making plans. And that's what I'm hoping happens here tonight. You know what? We're just going to shoot from the hip, get a bunch of creative nutjobs in the same room together at the same time, and see what you guys walk away with. And between now and then, we're just going to coffee talk about it.
Cool. That's awesome.
So, do you want me to just kind of tell my story, or do you?
Yeah. So just share with them kind of your story coming into to Flint. Kind of give a 30,000 view of Soul Foundry, and then what brought you back to Flint, and then kind of touch on some of the things that we talked about, what you see as the potential, kind of the undercurrent happening here.
Okay, I'm gonna cry, because I can't not be real. Flint is worthy of tears, and I think every one of us has an individual story that mirrors and echoes that. So I have to talk about divorce. I was born and raised in Flint, and I moved away in 2001 to pursue a career in music. I lived in Cincinnati for a number of years. I did work in Nashville and Charleston, South Carolina, and I toured 14 markets east of the Mississippi, did a little bit of work on the West Coast, and learned a lot from the industry. And when I found out that my wife was pregnant with our first child, I was on tour in DC at the time, and I got the phone call, and I decided to retire instantly in that moment. Like, we came off the road, we had a deal from Atlantic on the table, I shut it down, I told my manager that we're done, and that was it. I was done creating things because I had created life and I had to be responsible suddenly. And looking back, it was an overcorrection. I didn't trust myself. I bowed to assurances. But that was a journey that I needed to go through. So for 6 years, I didn't make anything. And my friend from high school, Todd Gilbert, he's here, and I'm going to call you out, called me one day and he said, "You're in a bad spot. Like, you're depressed because you're not making anything. So here's what's going to happen. I'm going to come down to Cincinnati and I'm going to stay with you for a week and we're going to write some songs." I said, "I don't do that anymore." He said, "I don't think you heard me. I'm going to come down and stay with you for a week and we're going to write some songs." So we talked about this and I was open to it as long as there were some conditions. This is not going to be recorded. We're not going to play these songs live. We're just going to see what happens. And that process was so freeing. Because before that, in my life as a professional musician, I only wrote maybe 1 to 2 songs a year. Because I would, as I call it, creatively abort things that I didn't think were viable. Oh, this isn't a hit. It's not my best work. Or this doesn't really make sense. No one's going to like it. I'm not good enough. Why am I doing this in the first place? So I would just self-censor everything into the ground. Well, when Todd and I set up this week of writing, all bets were off. I wasn't worried about how things were going to be received. The intended audience wasn't even a consideration. And what's interesting is when everything gets to live, no matter what, you write better. You create better. You create more fully. You become more trustworthy when you don't have anything to prove. So then you end up proving something. And we wrote 8 songs in 6 days that were really good. So what happened? We ended up recording them and performing them live. We made a band out of it. So I came out of retirement, essentially. But what's interesting is I came out of retirement as a producer. I really fell in love with the process of record production and writing and supporting other people creatively. So I had this studio in Cincinnati, and we were dropping anchor there for about a decade. So a couple years before that, a partner had it, and then I took it over when we did the project together with Todd and continued the work there, all the while going through the decay of my marriage. So as I was kind of ramping up creatively, this 15-year partnership was dissolving. And we were both from the Flint area. Our kids were born down there, but as we were ending our time together in partnership, we decided to come back to Flint. That's our home, it's where our heart beats. But I had some work to do around that because the entire decade that I was away from Flint, I didn't have a very good perception of it in my own self. Like I thought, wow, what a great place to be from. It's depressed, it's negative. Every time I go back to visit family, I get kind of icky feelings. And I had some peacemaking to do with Flint. So as I would visit Flint, knowing that we were going to kind of come back to the area, I listened to her. In fact, I got a tattoo of the coordinates of a tree at Four Nature Preserve where I would go and sit and just reconcile with the city and with myself. Because the place I was in is a place where I felt given up on. I felt like, emotionally and socially adrift. My identity had been as this partner to this person. And I had to let that go. And in the decay of my situation, I identified with the decay of the city. But I also saw rebirth. Because at the time, my marriage was decaying, but like I said, I was creatively being born into something. And I saw the same thing in Flint. As I listened to Flint, I saw small businesses crop up. I saw artists picking up guitars more often. I saw things happening. And I said, I want in. I want to be a part of that. So I took the studio business in Cincinnati and moved it up here. I did some due diligence. There were no recording studios in Flint, which was a crime because I began to see how much talent there was that was not being documented, let alone developed. And I said, I can help. Now, I didn't want to come back and just insinuate myself, so I kind of snuck in quietly and opened up shop and just networked a little bit and found out who was doing what. I met my first development act at the gym, just through random conversations. But we set up shop July of 2014. Now, here's where I start to talk about really big failure. And honestly, I think that my only success over any arc of time in my life has been leveraging failure. But this was really great. I still didn't trust myself creatively. What I wanted to do was develop artists. I didn't know how to sell that. I couldn't put up a sandwich board on the sidewalk and say, artist development services, step inside. What is that? People don't know how to engage that, but they do know how to make a record. And I said, I'm just going to sell recording services. And I'm going to Trojan horse these development services inside of that. It didn't work. It didn't work because my prices were really low, but artists are still broke. I had set up a business that's dependent on disposable income that's engaging a demographic that doesn't have disposable income. Artists are broke. They couldn't afford me. So I wasn't keeping the lights on. Plus, they weren't valuing the development services. So my mentor in LA, I went out there and met with her last May. So I was 3 years into this business model. Met with her last May, told her what I was up to. She said, you got to stop. You got to stop. You say you want to be good for your scene. You want to be good for your city. One, you're lying to yourself. Why are you hiding? And two, you're choking yourself out. You're managing people for free, and you can't reinvest what you don't make. That haunted me. It haunted me. So I came back, I got off the plane, I walked into our creative space over on First Street. I don't call it a studio anymore. It's a creative space. And I was standing next to my now business partner, then good friend, Tim, and I said, Tim, I got to pull it all down. I got to pull the walls down. I got to kill this. I got to take this horse out back of the shed and shoot it. You want to go into business with me? He said, yep. Because he saw that I'd stopped hiding. I didn't have a client list. I just fired my last band I was working with, and I didn't know how to sell development, but I knew I had something. I knew that the last impediment of fear was out of my way. I knew that I was done bowing to assurances. I said, I'm here to form creative individuals. I'm going to go do it. 3 weeks later, Natalie Lucassian knocks on my door and says, do you want to write together? And for the past year, she's taken off. Like two weeks ago, my last check-in on the reporting, she was one chart position behind Florence and the Machine nationally. She hasn't even released anything yet. So what was odd is that when I began to really lean into myself time and time again and trust myself in the face of uncertainty, doors opened, like flung wide. A year ago, this month, Soul Foundry was one person. Now it's 5 staff. We're looking at taking on another department head. We've got 3 artists we directly manage, and we've got 6 associated acts that are all just killing it in Detroit. So I cannot impress on you enough as creatives, as business owners. Whatever is standing between you and what you're wired to do, get it out of the way. Stop bowing to assurances. Begin to trust yourself. I'm going to say it. Know your worth. Because that's been my journey with Soul Foundry. And all I'm doing with the people that I work with and develop is just downloading my life experience of leveraging failure.
Ashley, come back to, like you said, yeah. See why I fell in love with him after 5 minutes?
For me, it was the beard.
You know, you talked about these coordinates on your wrist and like you coming back here and doing some soul searching. Like, did you have like a definitive moment? Like you can remember the time where it was like, okay, I need to tear this down, or was it gradual? Like, what was the catalyst? Was it the mentor? Like, you know, you explained a couple causes, but just kind of thinking through that, how did that journey happen? Because I know, like, coming to that self-awareness can sometimes take time, or it can be a single moment. What was it for you?
Well, for me, it was the mirror of the conversation with my mentor, but it was in context of punctuating an arc of time where things just weren't working. You know, I had taken on several development acts in a recording relationship that weren't taking. You know, one of the bands broke up, another one of the bands like wasn't listening to me and was working themselves into the ground. Another one of the bands wouldn't listen to me and were decaying from within, and I couldn't wake them up to themselves. So all of that kind of micro failure leading up to the conversation with my mentor gave that conversation more impact, so that it became a genuine revelation for me. And what's more, I'll say, what I learned over that 3 years really educated me insofar as what I thought I was going to do here. So I thought I was going to come here and develop artists and really teach them how to succeed in the industry from an administrative standpoint. Oh, I'm going to teach you how to put a record out. I'm going to teach you how to affiliate with a performing rights organization. I'm going to teach you the language of the industry. No, like that's the easy stuff. You can Google that stuff. What I discovered was there was a fundamental worth problem in the city, but in artists specifically, because that's my field where I can discern with some kind of sensitivity. Artists didn't think they had permission to be artists, like commercially. So as I saw people just self-sabotage over and over and over, I thought, I have to re-emphasize my work. And the re-emphasis became helping people marry the creative mindset with the entrepreneurial mindset. And honestly, I had to do that to myself first.
What you touched on this and you mentioned it about worth. Could you expand on that? Like you talked about artists don't see that in the worth in themselves to create, but kind of coming back to a conversation we had earlier about Flint and the potential, like this kind of undercurrent, and starting with, you know, first being able to believe in yourself before you produce something or create something. What would be your challenge to creatives?
The first person you have to sell yourself on is yourself. Like you can't sell a product to somebody if you can't sell it to yourself. And that means you have to answer a very important question. And it's one of our golden questions at Soul Foundry that we ask each other and then ask artists. What can you do that nobody else can do? And it's not arrogant to ask that question. What can you do that nobody else can do? I don't care who you are. Like there's a 400 trillion to 1 chance that the molecules of the universe conspire to make sure that you're breathing right now. Maybe pay attention to that. Like you have something to offer. Nobody sees the world the way that you see it. Nobody can make what you can make the way that you can make it. Nobody can process things and then express them the way that you can. So don't hide from that. So it starts there, asking yourself that question. What can you do that nobody else can do? And then go do it. So I don't think it's an artist problem. I don't think it's a Flint problem. I think it's a fundamentally human problem. And in my experience, which is all that I can speak to, it started in childhood. But I suspect that's kind of a common thread with a lot of people. It was the dad that wasn't there. It was the teacher saying, you're not really that good. It's something that you heard early on in your formation that was untrue about you, but you believed it anyway. And like on a macro level, have you read the headlines about Flint? You tell me, are they true? Come on, man, people are waiting for a snuff film. They're waiting for this town to die in front of them. Like, it's not true. Walk down the street. I was talking earlier with some folks. Your favorite thing about Flint? Mine was, there's no strangers in Flint. You can walk out on the street right now and make a friend. It's weird. You don't have that in other cities. There's this strange like connectedness, this tribal vibe in Flint. I don't care who you are. I don't care what class you are. I don't care where you come from. If you're Flint, and you take care of Flint. It's weird, and I love it. So we have to look at what Flint can be. And the reason that Nick and I started this whole series is we want to create a different facet to the conversation about Flint. Because I think that up until now, and throughout all of the struggles of the last couple decades, and especially the recent struggles, we've been seeing a dynamic of problem solving. And I'm not mad about that. But there's this like imaginary baseline that we're trying to get back up to. Like this place where everything's kind of okay and nothing's wrong. I think we're selling ourselves short. I think there's more. Instead of just like filling the hole up, why don't we build something? So that question that I asked you to discuss, given unlimited resources, what would you change about Flint? What would you build? What can you do that nobody else can do? Then ask the city that question. What can you do that nobody else can do? And I'll tell you what, all eyes are on Flint. The people that are waiting for Flint to crumble, imagine if Flint gets it right. Imagine if Flint understands that darkness is currency for light and slingshots from this negativity into a position of unforeseen hope. Then we model that for everyone.
Right.
Woo.
I can't even ask a question after that. Wow. We touched on this in a previous conversation. I just am coming back to so much of what we've discussed. But what would be the takeaways from this? Like, I feel like there's kind of granted, I'm going to qualify this. I am an outsider in the sense that I'm new to Flint. Like, my history goes back to, I started a band in high school. We actually played our first show in Flint at the Flint local. I've been coming here, lived in Owasso. But something that we've started talking about is that there's a lot of conversations going on, but not necessarily action. And like, I think something that you and I would feel like a failure about this, and I would submit this to you guys, because this is as much yours as it's not really Ashley and my thing. This is not Foster's thing. This is your thing. This is your opportunity. We're just basically an empty shell for you to come and meet, and we'll equip you in any way that we can. But is that if this just becomes another conversation, and I know that's in the title, but there's a play on words there about peace, not P-E-A-C-E. But what are the actions we can take? Like, what could you give to these guys as like 2 practical examples? Like, what could we do to start shifting that needle? Exactly like you said, use darkness as a slingshot for light.
I love what you said. You cannot talk without doing and expect things to change. You have to execute. Execution is everything. Even if it's a bad idea, do it. Learn from it, and then have a different bad idea, and then have a different bad idea, and a better bad idea until you find your thing. That's my entire life. Like, I fail magnificently over periods of decades. People are like, oh, actually, you're doing amazing things. Dude, sit down with me and I will show you how to fail. Get out there and do it. So 2 things, you're asking me for like 2 things. 1, you have to order the car. What I mean by that is my partner Tim at Soul Foundry has this great analogy that discerns between dreams and goals. He said a dream is, I want a Tesla. A goal is, I want a blue Tesla with 4 doors, a black leather interior, I want 80 miles to the gallon, and I want to pick it up in Columbus on Thursday. Here's my budget. You got to make it real. And Jackie and I were talking earlier about measurables. And she had a simple question. How many businesses have opened downtown Flint in the past 2 years? Was it 2 years or 1 year? 2 years. Nobody could answer. The chamber couldn't answer. The DDA couldn't answer. So she went and hit the bricks, literally. And she came up with a number. And she came up with a number for the revenue of black business owners. Like, you have to make these things real, and you have to look at the books. So that practice, apply that to where you are and where you want to be. You have to take measurable assessment of where you are. What are your current practices really doing for you? What are your current resources? And then order the car. Say, where do I want to end up? How do my resources need to change to get there? What partnerships do I need to create? What mindsets do I need to dissolve and then adopt? So we have the golden question at Soul Foundry, and it's very simple, but it's a devastating question to ask. Tim, what is it? I failed in some way. I put you on the spot. What do you want? What do you want? Every time I'm in a meeting with industry, they ask that question. It's eerie. It's like they have some secret Illuminati club, and they're like, "Did you ask the question? What they say? What do you want?" Now, this is interesting. When you're talking about being in front of influencers and them asking that question, it's kind of messed up because you walk into those meetings expecting them to tell you what to do. Oh, hey, big record executive, like, what do you need me to do and look like, and how should I behave for you to give me all my hopes and dreams? And instead, they turn it around on you and they say, what do you want? Now, they're looking for a couple things. They're not looking so much for what you say. They're looking at how you respond. If you hesitate, that's a tell. That's a tell that you don't believe in yourself. Because they want to partner with people who know themselves. They want to partner with people who can activate alongside their resources. So when you walk into those meetings, you should just know what you want from them. Because they're not there to discover you. They're there to aid in your development. That's one of the biggest problems that I see in Nashville. We got back from Nashville last night, and I was checking in on two guys from Detroit who were amazing musicians. They moved there in January, and I checked in on them this weekend, and they're kind of downtrodden. One of them was flat out bitter. He's like, man, this town is just killing me. I'm not playing guitar, I'm bartending. I was like, man, you moved here without a plan. This isn't where you get discovered. This town is a mechanism to resource a plan that you come here with. And I hope they come out of that stream because they're incredible human beings who have a lot to offer. But I see that everywhere. You're expecting someone to come like save you or discover you. That's the American Idol mentality. Just answer the question. What do you want? And then go get it or make it or have a partnership where you can put pen to paper and make it real. So one, you have to understand in your own mind that you deserve nice things and you have the ability to ask for things and make things and do things, and you got to go do it. And the entire time, you got to be realistic about where you are and what it takes to get where you're going.
I always feel like after every time you stop speaking, there should be a long pause just so we could let everything sink in. Advice, what would you give for advice for a creative looking for the next level of business framework? You work a lot with artist management. You know, if there's somebody here tonight, but actually before you answer that question, I want to do like a quick poll. How many people, I know creative is a very broad term. People can be designers, musicians. How many people, raise your hand, would classify themselves as in music? Okay, what about graphic design? Okay. What about illustration or art or painting? What are some others, Ashley?
Craftsmanship.
There we go. What else are we missing?
Writers.
What is that?
Writers.
Choirs? Writers. I was like, choirs. Okay, very specific.
Photography.
Photography? Videography in there as well? I mean, there's such a broad mix here. Such a broad mix. So I'll come back to this question. So for the creatives in this room, you know, looking for the next level of the kind of management business framework, what advice would you give them?
Expand your perspective. Get a mentor. Travel. Find somebody who's doing what you want to do and pick their brain and find out how to voice that for your track. Travel is indispensable to me. And I know the first response is going to be, I can't afford it. Stop drinking for a month. Honestly, like the dude that I just went to Nashville with is like, man, like I don't have disposable income, but what income I do have, I prioritize because I value travel. Because he just came back to Nashville with this world rocked. He saw things there that are now going to be uniquely indispensable investments in his track in Flint. He's going to go get models to bring back here and help his home. So travel is a priority for me. It's not recreation, it's not a vacation. I go out to other places and learn things. Also, I have like 5 mentors. I sit in front of people who I respect, who are where I want to be, who have something to invest into me, and we have this conduit where I can just say, hey, help me align myself with myself. So whatever mechanism you choose, those are just 2 that I make use of. Expand your perspective. Because, like, real talk, staying in Flint, it's easy to just think about Flint. And there's this weird shrink wrap that happens around your brain, and you just kind of stay here mentally. No, we need fresh ideas. Traveling is a great way for me to cultivate that soil, to grow those ideas in.
I want to highlight too, again, tonight, and we can send this out in a list to you guys through email of all the resources present here. Ebony, would you raise your hand back there?
Hey!
She's a consultant. She consults for entrepreneur people who have an idea, want to start something. She is a great resource. Connect with her, connect with Ashley, connect with the 100K, or connect with the Ferris wheel. And we'll kind of pull, Brandon Corder is here with Beats and Beers. Raise your hand, Brandon. So if you're in music, connect with him. There are so many great resources here to connect you with. So before the night is over, we'll kind of close this down. There'll be an opportunity. If you're saying, hey, I want to connect with somebody, come see me or Ashley, and we'll at least point you in the right direction if we need to make an introduction, whatever. So there's potential here in this room, and I feel like unlocking those doors are just like literally a seat or a table away from you.
What is it?
So kind of bringing it in for a landing here. We got the takeaways. What would you like to leave us with? What's the summary of all of this for us as a takeaway?
Don't farm out your worth. It's yours. Don't settle. Don't accept anybody else's expectations. Don't accept anybody else's identity. Don't accept anybody else's ideas if they betray your worth. Whatever you need to do to explore, cultivate, form, and protect your worth, do that. Is it therapy? Is it accountable relationships? Is it education? That's up to you. But I suspect it's the question of your life. It begs an answer, and it begs activation. Far too many people farm out their worth. That's why we have a culture of codependent pop songs, because people just inherently, culturally, find their identity in somebody else. They find their validation in somebody else. Stop it.
That's good. I want to kind of shift here to Q&A. If you have a question you want to have answered here, Justin's walking around, bushy beard here. Give him your card. But does anybody have a question that they want to brave the mic, come up? This is for recording purposes, just so we can have this documented. question to Ashley.
Do you want to hit the mic, man? First of all, like, I thought I was supposed to clap every time after I finished. Because there's this dead silence, just like.
But that's how conversation. That's how he talks. He'll like make a point and then just leave you with that, and you're like, okay.
Yeah, but appreciate everything you said. First of all, thank you.
Appreciate you.
Thank you. You talked about traveling, how important it is to broaden your perspective, and I can definitely speak to that because I went to Chicago on a work trip. While I was there, I was able to get into the local music culture there and see what it was like, and it definitely blew my mind and changed my perspective here. I've brought some takeaways I could bring here locally, but how important do you think it is for, as a beginning artist, for your community to listen to your music, to be there and to be involved? How important do you think? Because I know a lot of guys think, heading to Cali is where it's at, heading to, Chicago or bigger markets when you have a place like Flint. That culture's still being built here. How important do you feel it is to stay here and be a part of that?
I think you have to look at your motivations. So why are you exposing your art to this place? Why are you leveraging this as your base? Do you need validation? Do you need to play to play? Do you need Spotify spins? So are you farming out your worth with your own art? So what I would do is make sure that you don't need that validation. I'm fine with applause, but do you need them? And then understand that this is your home, this is your base, and you just got a bunch of cheerleaders, man. So be sure that you're adding value if you're also leveraging the resource. Just think about nature, like what happens in the soil when you grow things. So the plant starts as a seed and it takes nitrogen from the soil, but it also gives back. You know what I mean? So be sure that you're adding value if you're also taking. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's when you guys clap.
I will say this too, like speaking to motivations of why you get your art out there in the first place, be strategic. And if you want to elevate your brand overnight, limit your accessibility and increase your visibility. Stop playing every weekend in the same bar.
Brandon said say that again.
Limit your accessibility, increase your visibility.
So, I was going to have to ask a question.
Hi, Jackie.
So I think for both of you, and maybe even for the audience as well, talk about the power of chaotic collaboration. So we know that there's a lot of collaborators in Flint, and they tend to be fairly traditional and run, the same circles. But there's this undercurrent of something that's going on right now here, and I really think it would value everybody to hear about what you think about the collaborative opportunities here in the community.
There's no safety. There's no security. There are no assurances. Everything is uncertain. The next breath in your body is uncertain. Stop bowing to safety in your art. Stop bowing to safety in your business. I'm not saying become irresponsible, but I'm saying lean into yourself and your practices and your team. Chaos is okay if you've cultivated trustworthiness within. So to give an example, I told this story earlier. We were just in Nashville, and I had not met a lot of the people that I was going to be collaborating with in Nashville. And they're very high-functioning professionals. You know their names. I walked in the door, shook their hand, and got to work. We didn't have a conversation about what was going to happen. We just got to work. And the entire session was very free-flowing. Ideas were bouncing off the walls. And there was this wide-open door to what anybody wanted to bring to it. There was also this laser focus. Everybody was so keyed in. And we just knew what we were there to do, and we knew how to do it. And we trusted each other. The vibe was super positive the entire time. And the team that I brought from Flint had never seen anything like it. As we were debriefing afterward, I asked the question, so how many times throughout this session did you see us stop and belabor an entire song section for 2 hours? They said, we didn't see that at all. You guys worked super fast. And it was kind of chaotic, but more than chaos, there was this kind of flow to everything, and you guys got a lot done in a really short amount of time. I said, okay, well, put your mind back in Flint. In a studio setting, how often do you see people stop and belabor a song section for 2 hours? Oh man, every day. That's just how we do it. There you go.
Any excuse to get on a mic. So you mentioned earlier, the need for a mentor, even more than one. And mentioning that with the word kept bringing me back to, how do you know when someone is giving you advice and it's not right for you and that you need to disregard the advice of a mentor?
It all goes back to worth. Once you know your worth, then your identity becomes more fully formed, and you can almost intuitively decide what is a good fit and what isn't a good fit. Because there's no right or wrong way to do this. Especially in the arts, there's no right or wrong way, no matter what a teacher has told you. There's only fit for who you are, but you gotta know who you are. Is that helpful?
That is very helpful, thank you.
Come on up.
So I don't have a question, I have some things I want people to think about.
Let's hear it.
So, Haight-Ashbury,
Yeah.
summer '69.
Yep.
What happened to that community in just 5 years? It went from nobody wanted to be there to everybody wanted to be there. And now you can't afford to be there. Sedona, Arizona, bunch of hippie types, artists, artisans.
Arco Santi, yeah, big fan.
And now those folks, same folks that started that community, they took over abandoned communities and created them. Where around here can you find something like that? There's 55,000 lots in Flint that we can build on. And one of the things that I kept hearing you say is about you have to believe in yourself. And yet we go through school for 12 years and our creative influences are changed. We're directed to go, when I was in school, I was told how I was going to work for General Motors. I was told about the opportunities there. And my way of thinking was not considered. I had to conform, but I didn't conform. And but most children are taught not to believe in ourselves. So what I want to encourage everybody to do is think about how we can start integrating into our children how powerful they are and how much that they can contribute.
Yes.
And how we want to see that silly thing that they've been thinking about.
I am so glad you brought that up. That's the way I raise my kids. I understand that there's this insidious cultural voice that says, don't color outside the lines. And Victor Wooten, one of my favorite musicians, has this saying. He's like, man, we're taught our entire lives to color inside the lines. It's all about, who colors inside the lines the best? He's like, who made the lines? So I love that. My kids and I have these really wacky conversations, and especially when it concerns important things. Like my kids and I talk about, faith. I don't tell them what to think. I ask more questions of them than anything. And my favorite phrase in the household is, what do you think? Because there's an inherent implication in that question that what you think matters. And I'm a big fan of education. I'm glad that I had that opportunity in my life. But there is this kind of assumption that you're going to color inside the lines. And so as a parent, as a friend, as a leader, I try to weave in empowerment so that it's not just base indoctrination. Bob, come get him.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm jacked up on the Foster's coffee.
Would you talk
in the mic? Just talk.
I'm passionate about the opportunity that exists in the city for a shining example where we can take what the corporations initially pulled out and messed up a lot of things, and then the politicians switched the water and made things even worse. We have an opportunity to get to the heart of the matter, then let's make some renovations by using the truth and music for the message for change. Okay? I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I don't want to miss this. I don't want to miss this.
So, like you were touching on earlier, it's an idea, but it's the actions that make a difference.
Yep.
Okay, so I'd like to do my little part by taking guitars that are relatively inexpensive in a pawn shop and place them in the hands of a kid who can't afford one. Because in that moment, that kid is being presented with a change in life, right? It's an opportunity. So he can pick up the ball and run with it, or he might not, and that's okay. But he's being given an opportunity. And with daily effort and baby steps, we can use this current situation in this town and its negative spotlight to slingshot past it into a bright new future as an example for this country as far as what's right.
Amen.
Right?
So I hope everybody leaves here shaking Bob's hand. It doesn't get more real than that. You're literally putting a guitar in the hands of a kid that can't afford one. And the message there is that what you have to say matters. And here's a tool to make it real. Because I believe what Joseph Campbell said about art, and that is art leads culture. Not legislation, not economics, art. Because what we do is we see the world in a very specific way, and then we interpret that world, and then we give voice to hope. It's literally our job to make something out of nothing. That's magic. Let's do it with this city.
Absolutely. So again, everything that is the way it is because the people who currently possess the power want it to be this way. They're the ones in power, right? So things are the way they are because the people that have the power want it to be this way. But the youth have an opportunity in the sense that every year there's a new wave of youth knowing the truth to take those, let's say, mentalities about my worth as an individual, it depends on my bank account, not what I'm contributing to society. Okay, so I'm of the belief that if somebody in this nation, world, whatever, is in a state of suffering, okay, and I am living in the lap of luxury, I have a problem with that. In the sense that I believe a portion of my efforts should benefit the people who are suffering. Because if we all had that mindset, wouldn't the world be a better place? If it's my job to help my brother.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Bob. So, yeah, no, clap for that. That was good stuff.
Can I add something?
Yeah, please do.
You know, has anyone ever heard the phrase, he who controls the images, or the media controls the culture? Has anyone ever heard that phrase before? The beauty of what the creative culture can do, yes, there are hierarchies of power, you know, government, you know, there's several layers. But the potential here with creatives is you can control the message. Like, just kind of a poll, what are the forces right now currently controlling the image of Flint? Just list them out.
National media.
National media, okay. Outsiders.
People not from Flint.
People that were from here that moved away and are functioning on old archaic information.
Okay.
That was me for like a decade. I get it.
There's a lot of people like that.
Who else? Like, these are the pillars controlling the image of this community.
The people that are still with GM that live in other communities.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Because GM had such a hold on Flint for so long, and then when GM left, a lot of people left with them, and so they're there, and that's all they view Flint as. So if GM's not here, then Flint's nothing. So it's kind of like what you're talking about your worth. It's like if you don't have X, Y, Z, then you're nothing.
How much of this city's identity, how much of this city's worth was farmed out to a monolithic corporation.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. So, and I want to hear what you have to say. I just wanted to rope this into that idea that whoever controls the media, the images, controls the culture. And as creatives, we have an opportunity to take back the images that other people are telling the story of Flint. I mean, and I know this is going to kind of throw out a can of worms, so let's be careful, but let's talk about it, is the Netflix documentary. How many people saw it? Okay, how much of that is true? How much of it is the whole story? How much, and here's the important thing, how much of that is your voice telling your story about your version of Flint? Those guys are from LA. I don't even think they're from Flint. And what does that benefit come back to the people who are still here? Like, does any money come back to Flint? There was another documentary crew in here. Like, I'm just asking the simple question, like, where's the trickle back to the people here in the community? Who are the people who are sharing the images? What, if they're national, and I'm hearing, just responding to what you guys are saying, if it's national media, if it's outsiders telling the story, and is that the real Flint? That's the question.
It was art. That Netflix documentary was art. It was a perspective documenting something that had an interpretation that was expressed outside of, I'm going to use the word agenda, I don't know if it's even fair, but it was someone's perspective on something. That's art. Art's perspective. Art is reinterpretation of what is, or what could be. It was art. Did you see how many Facebook conversations there were about that documentary? It was powerful. It had impact. That's art. That's the power of art. It shapes you emotionally. It shapes your perspective. It creates new ideas. It gets you riled up. So I don't care how powerful you are. Bob brings up a great point. I don't care how powerful you are. You have a favorite song. What if you wrote it?
I want to go, if you don't mind.
Yeah. Hey, big thanks and applause, please, to Flint, Michigan Films for documenting the evening.
That's what I do. I'm a filmmaker, and I think what we didn't like about that is because that is Flint. It's not all of Flint, but that is Flint. That's the part that they don't talk about downtown. You know what I mean? That is the part of Flint, and that's why you don't like it. You know what I mean? That's why we didn't like it. That's why it breaks our heart to see it. So, you made me cry, Ashley.
My work here is done. How are we doing on time?
7:30.
7:30, cool. Other questions?
Yeah, please.
So, I don't have like, too much question here, it's more of a statement, but a lot of this has just really caused me to think of a lot of stuff. And anyways, I was in the group, and Dane was in my group, and our ending comment, right when you guys started talking, I just said the best thing that ever happened to Flint was the water crisis. And he just kind of looked at me and said, yeah, we'll debate that later. But as I thought about it, I wanted to share kind of what I was thinking about that, because this last gentleman that was talking about the guitars and stuff really made me think about something else. So, tiny little bit of background. I moved from South Carolina in 2008.
Oh, whereabouts?
Clemson. Woo!
Clemson. I lived in Charleston for a while.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah, and well, we'll talk about that in a little bit. There's a connection right now. But I gave a reference to my group because in South Carolina, when I was growing up, I watched the textile industry fall apart. That's all we had. And I also was in 6th grade. I had lived in Minnesota and Atlanta prior to moving there. And South Carolina was the last state to integrate. So in my 6th grade class in 1974, I believe it was, maybe 73, anyways, South Carolina integrated. Now this is mind-bending to me that people were in this mindset. And I sat back at 12 years old looking at people going, what is wrong with you? Because I'd not been in those environments. You talked about travel. Travel really causes you to see things differently. Yeah. And I had lived in 7 different states before I went to kindergarten, so that's a whole other story, but I traveled a lot. It's in my DNA, and it's just what it is. So I was like, what's wrong with these people? Like, why do they hate each other so much? Why is everybody so upset? Yada, yada, yada. And there was such a division. But over the years, like through my high school years, there was such a coming together of the high school students, the young people, that the older people couldn't grasp that. And so part of our conversation today was like how Flint only has one high school now. I'm like bravo on that note. I don't want to see the schools closed, but I like the idea of the community and the coming together and the closing of the ring, you know, where people interact with each other more. And that is what I saw happen in this water crisis. And, you know, in South Carolina, you just pray for everything. And so I said, you know, people prayed and prayed and prayed for Flint. Said, God, do something with Flint. And I said, if you ever noticed in the Bible, God doesn't send butterflies and rainbows and flowers. He sends locusts and sandstorms and, water crises to places. And what it did is it created a sense of community here. It caused people to get off their chairs and go do something. People, you know, to meet people they lived next door to for 5 years that they never even spoke to, or they hated because they didn't know them, or they were scared that they were going to kill them, or some craziness. And what it really did is it leveled the playing field. Like, everybody was in the same situation, and it didn't matter if you were a has or a have-not. Everybody was in the same situation, and people had to care about each other and something besides the nucleus of their little family. And it didn't matter if you worked for GM, you worked for McDonald's, you know, it didn't matter. Like, people just stopped asking those questions and stopped seeing each other and started seeing each other as human beings. I remember the day. I remember the day that they had a big thing about the guys that were all in the jailhouse and stuff like that. And people actually, oh my gosh, they cared about people that were in the jail, which is just seems so prevalent here. And so I saw a coming together of community, and I saw a leveling of the playing field. And it brought Flint back to the focus, whether it's good or bad. I always say that even little kids, they'd rather have negative attention than no attention, but some attention's better than nothing. And it got us into the national limelight. And people know this name. So now we have this fantastic canvas that we can paint any way we want. And while we're painting it, we've got eyes watching us. And if we can raise this place out of ashes to something amazing, like Mark was saying, you know, about the place in Arizona, I mean, all of that comes together. And all of this, a great deal of it, my dear friend Dane, are you still sitting there? Yes. Comes from this water crisis. I'm saying you have to focus on things and look at things differently. Just because it seems negative doesn't mean it's negative. And just because it seems positive doesn't mean it's necessarily positive. Like you said, like how do you know the mentor is like saying the right thing? So again, you know, it's all about attitude, and it's about perspective, and it's about saying, you know, okay, I don't like the way this tastes, well, what can I add to it to make it taste better?
You just unpacked the vision for Conversation Piece. Like that's it, the canvas, that's what we're talking about. It's not paint by numbers.
Yeah.
And you have every color of creation available to you. And what's your name?
Lainey.
Lainey, thank you so much, Lainey.
Yeah, I said, where was my invitation for that think tank?
So
I want to be on the A-list next time.
To respond to some of the things that you said in the language of faith, faith without works is dead.
Right.
You know, hope without action is a vapor. And to circle back to what Nick said, you on your way out of here, you got to do something about it. So if you had maybe a revelation or you made a connection tonight, I'm sorry to break it to you, there's work to do. And Lainey, I'm glad you brought up the water crisis, because there were some conversations had because of the water crisis. It wouldn't have happened otherwise. I was having a conversation with a friend. She said, why are we talking about repairing something that's broken? Why can't we be better than we were before? And this might go into the realm of what if we had inexhaustible resources, but she said, look at Ohio's water standards. Why does Cincinnati have the best water in the friggin' country? You know, they have like this double check standard. I don't know what the technical language is for it, but she's like, they have practices in place that make their water cleaner than bottled water. What if we took this blank canvas and Flint developed standards and infrastructure and practices so that we had the best water in the country? Wouldn't that be a story to tell? So what other areas of civics can we apply that mindset to? Why are we just fixing what's broken? And people ask me often, what's Flint going to look like in 5, 10 years? That's up to you. You're the one holding the brush and looking at the canvas. It's up to you.
Fantastic.
Lainey, thank you so much. Final questions.
Okay, so what is a qualifier of culture? Because it seems like a lot of times here, there's like and then there needs to be like okay, you can like this, it's okay. You can like that, or you can enjoy this. And so what is a qualifier of like, okay, this is culture, this is cool, this is, you know.
You want like a list?
Hmm?
You want like a list?
No, not a list, but more of a, like what are people looking for?
I think language is huge. I think language informs culture.
Okay.
I think that's huge. I think freedom is huge. I think mindset is huge. But it all starts with, how are we communicating? What language do we use? How do we consider each other? How do we connect? Like, the health of an organism is based on how well the cells are communicating within the organism. What language do they speak? Are we speaking the same language? Are we understanding each other? That's where culture comes from, I think.
Okay. Appreciate it. Thank you.
No, thank you. Final questions. Justin, did we get any questions written down? No? Okay. You guys are so bold.
Any final thoughts before we go?
Thank you so much for showing up tonight. Honestly, it's not any harder than that. You want to talk about action steps? You made time and you walked through a door. That's huge. How many people didn't do that tonight? You did. So take that small victory and scale it up. Because honestly, that's all you need to do is show up. Show up to yourself, show up to the task, show up to the meeting, show up to the event, show up to the future. That's all it is. Somebody asked me in a panel once, you're in all these different places with all these people doing all these things, and how do I get to be where you are? I said, show up. Just show up. Ask yourselves the questions. What can you do that nobody else can do? What do you want? And then to activate on that, show up. When you walk out the door, where are you showing up to? Because it's all on purpose. Your life can happen to you, but you're choosing to let it happen to you. You're still designing your future. So decide what future you want and then make it. Show up.
Would you guys please give Ashley...
Oh, I love you.
Oh my gosh. So I'll say this is far from the end. You guys are welcome to hang out here for a while, continue the conversation with each other. If everyone could get out your phone just real quick and put this on your calendar. The next conversation piece is going to be June 28th. It's going to be a Thursday night, same space, June 28th, Thursday night, 6 to 8 p.m. We've got the next speaker. He is probably like 2 degrees of separation from pretty much everybody in the world. I've never met a person that knows pretty much everybody. Like, seriously, he's like at least 2 people away from knowing everybody. He was the former head of marketing for Tommy Hilfiger. He lived and worked in New York. He's consulted for Apple Computer, JP Morgan Bank, for the British government. He is extremely, extremely humble. He's a great guy, and he's going to be speaking again. That's June 28th here, 6 to 8 p.m. And these are just the kind of little hops between really what you just encouraged us all to do, which is to do something in between that. So, guys, I just want to encourage you, if you need something from me or Ashley or anybody here that you see that's working, like, we are here to serve you. That's our heart. That's our agenda. So if you need something, please contact us. I'll give you my phone number, my email, whatever I can give to you, I will do it. And Ashley, I know I'm speaking for you as well. Ashley will give you $100 if you come and ask him.
It's not going to happen.
Oh, okay.
Go to 100K and pitch your ideas to that.
Yeah. So also Gabriel, raise your hand. This is Gabriel with 100K if you're looking for some resources there. Again, if you don't remember who was mentioned tonight, come see one of us. So guys, thank you so much. Please give Ashley another round of applause. Thank you guys so much.